In January 2026, Kody Brown sat in front of a camera and told a national television audience that he and Robyn were fighting for their marriage. That one sentence, 8 words, should have been the most reassuring thing he said all season. Instead, it was the most revealing. Because by April, he was on Cameo, telling paying strangers that he praised to his wife. And in that entire window, Robyn Brown has not used a single word like fighting, struggling, or working on it in any public statement about their marriage. One person is talking. One person is quiet. And that gap of silence is the entire story. If this is the kind of analysis you've been looking for, hit like and subscribe to SisterWives Crew right now. We track every word, every edit, every silence. You're going to want to be here for what comes next. Let's go back to January 4th, 2026. The episode airs, Kody delivers this line: "Robyn and I are fighting for our marriage and our life together. We have been going through 4 years or more of breakup with the family." Read that a second time. Actually, read it a third. Because hidden inside what sounds like a declaration of commitment is something much more complicated. He doesn't say the marriage is strong. He doesn't say they're thriving or connected or at peace. He says they're fighting. That word fighting is not a word you reach for when things are fine. You don't tell America you're fighting for something that isn't in danger. Now, here's what makes that statement even more interesting. Go look at every piece of public coverage from that episode window. Read the interviews, the clips, the reaction segments. Find me the moment where Robyn Brown looks into a camera and confirms that framing. Find the clip where she says, "Yes, we've been fighting for this." You can look. I'll wait. Because what you're going to find is nothing. Robyn doesn't echo the language. She doesn't validate it. She doesn't reject it either, which is its own kind of answer. She simply doesn't use it. Kody introduced the word fighting into the public conversation about their marriage, and Robyn let it sit there alone. That's not a small detail. That's the entire architecture of the problem. Fast forward 3 months. It's April 2026. Kody is on Cameo, a platform where people pay money to hear celebrities say things directly to them, and the framing has shifted again. Now he's not fighting, now he's serving. Now he's praying. His exact construction, captured in coverage from Soap Dirt on April 2nd, lands somewhere in the territory of, "I serve her, I pray to her." Think about the distance between those two statements. In January, marriage is a battleground. In April, Robyn is a deity. That is not the language of a man whose relationship has stabilized in 3 months. That is the language of someone whose emotional register keeps climbing because the ground beneath him keeps feeling less solid. This is where close reading gets uncomfortable. When someone's language escalates this quickly from fighting to serving to praying in a 4-month window, one of 2 things is happening. Either the relationship is genuinely in crisis, and each new declaration is a more desperate attempt to hold it together, or the declarations themselves are doing a job that the relationship isn't doing on its own. Neither interpretation is reassuring. Both put the asymmetry front and center. One person's volume keeps going up. The other person's volume stays exactly the same. And in a marriage, that's not balanced. That's one person holding the wall up alone and calling it partnership. Let's sit with the credibility problem for a second, because it's a real one. If Kody and Robyn's marriage is genuinely stable, if they've weathered the chaos of 4 years, 3 departures, and the complete structural collapse of the plural family they built, then why is the rhetoric still escalating? Stable things don't require that level of public narration. You don't announce your foundation is solid every 3 months. The announcement itself is a signal. On the flip side, if the marriage is struggling, if there's real turbulence happening in that house in Flagstaff, then why is Robyn silent? Why isn't she adding her voice to the same conversation her husband is having in public? Her silence either means she disagrees with his framing, or she's chosen not to participate in it, or she simply doesn't feel the same urgency he does. Every single one of those options puts pressure on the story Kody is trying to tell. The double bind here is elegant in a painful way. Kody's talking makes the marriage look fragile. Robyn's silence makes it look more fragile. There's no version of this where the asymmetry disappears. The asymmetry is the story. Now, let's zoom out and talk about why this matters beyond the two of them, because there's a structural reality here that TLC is absolutely aware of. Kody and Robyn are the last married couple in Sister Wives. That's not a minor footnote. That's the load-bearing wall of the entire franchise. Janelle left, Christine left, Meri finally stopped calling herself a plural wife in any meaningful sense. The premise of Sister Wives, the thing the network sold to advertisers and audiences for over a decade, was plural marriage. One husband, multiple wives. One family, one roof. That premise is completely gone. What remains is one marriage, and Kody is on television telling everyone it's a fight. Think about what that means for season 21 and any conversation happening right now about season 22. TLC cannot film Sister Wives without a marriage to anchor it. They can film Kody and his adult children in conflict, and they have, but that's a different show. The brand is built on the plural marriage experiment. If Kody and Robyn's marriage becomes visibly unstable on camera, the network has a serious decision to make. Do they rebrand? Do they follow just Robyn? Do they lean into the divorce arc the way they leaned into Christine's departure? None of those pivots is easy. All of them require essentially admitting that the thesis of the show that this particular model of marriage works failed entirely. The cameras witnessed the whole thing, season by season, and documented their own argument being dismantled. So when Kody says, "We are fighting for our marriage" on a TLC episode, he is not just speaking to Robyn, he is speaking to producers. He is speaking to a contract negotiation. He is speaking to an audience of advertisers who need a reason to keep buying spots. He is giving the network something to work with. The statement isn't just emotional, it's strategic, even if he doesn't consciously experience it that way. Which brings me to the part I want to flag clearly as my own read, my own theory. Because I think it's worth saying out loud, even though I can't prove it from the footage alone. I don't think Kody's escalating language is a sign the marriage is dying. I think it's a sign that Kody is afraid of being alone. That sounds simple, but follow the logic. 3 women built lives with this man and then walked away. Christine went first and built something visibly better on the other side. A new partner, a thriving public persona, a narrative of liberation. Janelle followed, quieter but just as definitive. Meri finally closed the chapter publicly in a way that left no ambiguity. Kody has now watched 3 people choose themselves over the version of life he was offering. That is a specific kind of wound. And the only data point left, the only person still in the house, still wearing the ring, still sitting across from him at dinner, is Robyn. She has become, by default, the entire proof of concept. If Robyn stays, Kody is a man who still has a marriage. If Robyn goes, Kody is a man who lost 4 wives to the same pattern. That's not just a personal loss at that point. That's a verdict. And I think Kody's language, the fighting, the serving, the praying, is the narration of a man who is trying very hard to make sure the verdict doesn't come back that way. He is narrating Robyn into permanence. He is describing the marriage loudly enough and publicly enough that it becomes, in some way, harder to undo. You don't leave a man who just told the whole country he prays to you without the whole country having an opinion about it. The Cameo videos are the same instinct in a smaller format. Someone pays $40 or $50 to hear Kody say something. He delivers the line. He makes it generous and devotional and quotable. It gets screenshotted. It circulates. It becomes another data point in the public record of his love for Robyn. And somewhere, presumably, Robyn sees it. The intended audience for "I prayed to my wife" is not the person who bought the cameo. The intended audience is the woman in the same house who hasn't said anything publicly about the marriage in months. That sentence, "I prayed to my wife," is worth pausing on by itself, because it's doing a lot of work. On the surface, it reads as devotion. He loves her that much. She's that sacred to him. Romantic, right? But think about the register that sentence actually lives in. Stable, secure marriages don't produce that kind of language publicly. A man who feels safe in his marriage doesn't need to perform its sanctity for an audience of strangers. "I prayed to my wife" is a sentence built to be screenshot. It's built to travel. It's built to arrive somewhere specifically. It's built to arrive at Robyn, filtered through public attention in a way that a private conversation couldn't accomplish. If he just wanted to express devotion to Robyn, he could do that at home, privately, without a camera or a transaction involved. The fact that he's doing it publicly, on a paid platform, in a quotable format, tells you something about who the real audience is, and what the real function of the statement is. This is where the isolation becomes worth examining. Who exactly is hearing these statements? Think through the actual audience for Kody's January declaration and his April cameo. Christine isn't watching TLC episodes that feature Kody talking about his feelings. she's moved on completely, and her content doesn't suggest she's tracking his soundbites. Janelle's public presence post-departure has been quiet and self-focused. Meri is doing her own rebuilding. Kody's older kids, the ones who've been publicly critical, who've cut contact, who've spoken candidly about the relationship with their father, they're largely not sitting around watching TLC for clips of him affirming his fourth marriage. So the universe of people who are actually receiving these messages is smaller than it looks. It's Robyn. It's Cameo buyers who already like him. It's TLC's edit room deciding what narrative to build season 21 around. And it's an audience that reads about sister wives on the internet and wants to believe. Or wants to disbelieve. He is writing love letters to a woman in the same house, in public, because the public reading is part of the function of the letter. Take away the audience and you change what the letter is. And here is the deepest irony of all of this. The one that wraps around the entire 13-season arc of this franchise and ties it off in a knot. The original defense of plural marriage. The premise Kody made to camera over and over in those early seasons was that the structure provided more. More love, more partnership, more security, more support. The argument was that having more spouses created more stability, not less. 4 people invested in the family meant the family was more resilient. That was the sales pitch, and Kody believed it. He still probably believes some version of it. But what Sister Wives actually documented, season by season, camera rolling, is the inverse. More spouses didn't create more security for anyone in that family. The structure created hierarchy, competition for attention, resentment, loneliness, and eventually departure. And now, at the end of the experiment, there's one marriage left. One spouse. And that one spouse is the source of tremendous anxiety, at least for one of the 2 people in it. The thesis got run twice, in opposite directions, by the same man. More wives equals more security? Failed. One wife equals more security is currently producing language like fighting and praying and I serve her. Neither version produced calm. The man at the center of both experiments is still searching for the same thing he was searching for in season 1, and the camera is still rolling, and none of it has been resolved. That is a genuinely sad arc when you say it plainly. Not dramatic sad, not manufactured reality TV sad, actually quietly, humanly sad. Kody Brown has spent over a decade on television trying to build a life that felt permanent, and he is now alone in a house with one wife, making cameo videos telling strangers he prays to her. So let's end where we started, because it's the only place to end. In January 2026, Kody Brown told the world he is fighting for his marriage. In April 2026, he said he prays to his wife. Both statements came from Kody. Neither statement has been mirrored, confirmed, echoed, or contradicted by Robyn in any public forum. That silence is not nothing. In a relationship where one person is narrating loudly and the other person is saying nothing about the same subject, the silence is its own form of data. It's incomplete data. We don't know what Robyn says privately, what she thinks privately, what she's told Kody privately. But publicly, Kody is the only one using the word fighting. He is the only one whose language has escalated. He is the only one whose declarations have gotten louder, while everything around him has gotten quieter. When a man tells the world he is fighting for his marriage, the only person whose answer matters is the one he's fighting for. And she hasn't said anything yet. So here's what I want you to do. Watch what Robyn says next. Watch what she doesn't say. Watch whether her language, in season 21 interviews, in any social media presence, in any sit-down segment, ever rises to match his. Watch whether she validates the word fighting or lets it continue to sit alone in the record. Watch whether she performs the marriage back at him publicly or whether she continues to stay quiet while he narrates it for both of them. Because if Robyn never matches his language, that asymmetry doesn't resolve on its own. It compounds. And if she does eventually match it, if she starts saying words like fighting or working on it or struggling together, then the question becomes why now? And what changed? And what was happening in that house while Kody was making cameo videos about praying to her? Either version of what comes next is a story worth tracking. And we are going to track every single one of it here. Drop a DLIC in the comments right now if you think Kody and Robyn make it to season 22 intact. Drop a click-mitter if you think Robyn is eventually the one who files. I want to see where this audience lands, and I want a timestamp on it. because we're going to come back to these comments when the finale airs and see who read this right. Subscribe to SisterWives Crew if you're not already here. From this episode forward, I am tracking every single public statement Robyn makes about this marriage. Every quote, every non-answer, every careful word she chooses in interviews. If she says something, you will hear about it here first. If she says nothing, that silence will be documented too, because the silence is already louder than most people are giving it credit for. I'll see you in the next one.